dear listener, to Mythology for Sleep. Tonight, we journey back to the dawn of time for a pivotal story, the reign of Cronos. Our tale explores the early days of Titan ruler Cronos as he consolidates his power. We'll learn how he made a profound, dark decision, casting the powerful Hecatoncheires and Cyclopes into the deepest, shadowy realm of Tartarus. It's a foundational myth, setting the stage for future cosmic events. Now, settle in. But just before we begin, if our stories help you drift off, please tap the like and subscribe buttons. In my channel, you can find Norse, Greek, and other mythology tales. So comment and tell me which myth you'd like to hear next. Your support helps us craft and shape more calm stories for fellow night owls. And now let your shoulders sink softly into the mattress and your mind drift into today's tale. In the very beginning, there was only a quiet, endless expanse. No sun shone yet, no moon graced the dark. There were no stars to twinkle, no oceans to sigh. Just a vast, formless nothingness lay waiting. Then, from this profound emptiness, something stirred. A gentle, powerful presence began to take shape. This was Gaia, Mother Earth herself. She was the solid ground beneath us. She was the deep, rich soil, the scent of damp earth. Gaia was warm and nurturing, boundless and strong. She stretched out, taking her magnificent form. Above her, vast and infinite, rose Uranus. He was the sky, a swirling, starry cloak. Uranus was the light, the air, the endless blue. He arched majestically over Gaia. His gaze was wide and all-encompassing. He watched over her, loving her deeply. Gaia, in turn, adored her celestial mate. Their love was profound. It filled the cosmos. Mountains slowly pushed upwards from Gaia's breast. Oceans gathered in her hollows, immense and deep. Forests unfolded across her vast plains. The world was born from their embrace. It was a world of immense scale then. Everything felt new, untouched, and grand. The air hummed with creation's song. Life was just beginning to stir. From Gaia's fertile depths, and from Uranus's showering light, their first children emerged. They were the Titans, a race of mighty beings. Each one was enormous, powerful, and unique. First came Oceanus, the flowing river of the world. His sister Tethys joined him. She was the spirit of fresh waters. Coos, the Titan of intellect, arrived next. Phoebe, with her bright, prophetic mind, followed close behind. Then rose Hyperion, the radiant one. He would father the sun, moon, and dawn. Theia, his luminous sister, also appeared. They brought light to the nascent world. Epetus, a strong and willful Titan, came forth. His brother Cronos emerged next. Cronos was the youngest, yet perhaps the most formidable. He was a Titan of time and harvest. With him came Rhea, his beautiful sister. She was a gentle, nurturing spirit. Mnemosyne, the Titan of memory, also appeared. Themis, the embodiment of divine law and justice, completed their number. These powerful children filled the vast world. They explored the towering mountains. They gazed into the endless, deep seas. Their voices echoed across the nascent landscapes. Uranus watched over them all. His presence was everywhere, encompassing. He loved his children, though his gaze could be overwhelming. He held them close, beneath his starry dome. Gaia, their mother, protected them. She rejoiced in her mighty offspring. Her heart swelled with pride and love. The world felt peaceful, filled with harmony. The Titans lived in this early, expansive world. There were no boundaries then. The sky stretched endlessly above them. The earth provided all they needed. Days flowed into nights in a gentle rhythm. The world continued to form around them. New wonders emerged with each passing moment. It was a time of pure creation. Uranus, the sky, remained ever present. He shielded Gaia with his immense form. His light touched every corner. He was both father and protector. Gaia, the earth, offered her bounty. She was the stable ground, the nourishing source. Her love flowed freely to her children. This was the dawn of existence. A perfect, boundless peace settled. It stretched across the vast, new world. This was the reign of creation. This was the beginning of everything. Gaia, the wide earth, continued her slow, wondrous unfolding. From her deep, fertile being, new life gently stirred. Uranus, the starry sky, watched from above. His vast presence still embraced her. He had reveled in the Titan's birth. They were grand, beautiful, and familiar. Their forms mirrored his own majestic scale. His pride had swelled with each new child, but Gaia's creative pulse never stopped. It beat with an ancient, untamed rhythm. Soon, a different kind of stir began. It emerged from the earth's deepest core. The ground rumbled with a new energy. A strange, powerful light pulsed. Then, 3 enormous figures appeared. Their skin was like rough mountain stone. Each possessed a single, burning eye. It glowed fiercely in their foreheads. This eye was round and piercing. It gleamed with raw, wild power. These were the Cyclopes. Their names echoed their nature. Bronze, the Thunderer, arrived first. His gaze carried the force of a storm. Then came Steropes, the Lightning. His single eye flashed with bright energy. Arges, the Bright One, followed close behind. His light could pierce the deepest shadow. They were immensely strong. Their limbs resembled ancient oak trees. Their voices boomed like distant thunder. They seemed born of the very elements. Uranus observed their emergence. A flicker of unease crossed his vast mind. They were not like the graceful Titans. Their power felt different. Their single eyes held no warmth. They held only intense, focused might. He felt a tremor deep within his own being. A cold prickle touched his starry form. Yet Gaia simply hummed with joy. She cradled them in her vastness. Her love for them was unconditional. She saw only their magnificent strength. Uranus tried to dismiss his feeling. Perhaps they were just unusual. The world was still new and strange. Many wonders yet remained unseen. But Gaia's birthing urge persisted. Her fertile essence pulsed once more. A deeper, more profound tremor began. It shook the very foundations of the world. The earth groaned with the effort. Mountains seemed to shift uneasily. The air grew thick and heavy. A sense of immense power gathered. Then 3 more beings emerged. Their forms stretched beyond imagining. Each possessed 50 massive heads. From each head, 50 eyes stared out, and each also had 100 hands. These hands moved with incredible speed. They were strong beyond all measure. They could wield mountains like pebbles. These were the Hecatoncheires. They were the 100-handers. Briareus, the vigorous, was the first. His many hands flexed with raw might. Cottus, the striker, followed him. His powerful grip could crush stone. Gyes, the great-limbed, was the last. His strength defied all limits. They were truly monstrous to behold. Their sheer size dwarfed the landscape. Their voices were a cacophony. It was a chorus of deep, booming roars. Uranus felt a profound shock. His starry body seemed to recoil. These children were truly terrifying. They possessed unimaginable power. His earlier unease became true fear. They were not merely different. They were a force beyond his control. They could challenge his very dominion. Their 100 hands twitched constantly. Their 50 heads peered everywhere. He saw no beauty in their forms. He saw only a terrifying strength. A dark thought began to form. It coiled in his celestial mind. These children could not be free. Their power was far too great. Gaia, however, saw only her young. She marveled at their immense strength. She loved them with a mother's heart. She embraced their wild, untamed nature. But Uranus's fear grew stronger. It began to cloud his judgment. He looked at the Cyclopes and Hecatoncheires. He saw a threat, not a blessing. His reign, he felt, was now imperiled. His power might be challenged. A chilling plan began to stir. It took hold in his fearful mind. He knew he must act decisively. He had to protect his own rule. The primordial night deepened around him. His vast form grew cold and distant. The vast, endless sky Uranus watched his children with growing unease. Their very forms filled him with a chilling dread. The Cyclopes, with their single, piercing eyes, were mighty. Their strength was immense, their power unsettling. Then came the Hecatoncheires, born with 100 strong arms. Their 50 heads turned, their voices rumbled. Uranus felt a cold, tightening grip of fear. He remembered the old prophecies whispered. A child might rise and challenge his reign. His mind became clouded with dark suspicion. He saw threats in every new birth. His own children, he reasoned, posed the greatest danger. They held such raw, untamed power. He could not allow them to roam free. He must maintain his absolute, supreme rule. A terrible idea began to form then. It settled deep within his fearful heart. he would ensure his power remained unchallenged. He would remove the threat permanently. His gaze fell upon the earth, Gaia, his wife. Her fertile depths had borne these beings. Now, those depths would serve a new purpose. He approached Gaia with a heavy, troubled silence. She sensed his shift, her surface trembled. "These children," he began, his voice strained. "They are too wild, too monstrous." Gaia looked at him, her ancient eyes wide. "They are our sons, bright Uranus," she pleaded. "They possess unique, wonderful gifts." But Uranus ignored her heartfelt words. His fear had now consumed all reason. He extended his mighty, starlit hands. A cold, unfeeling resolve hardened his face. He first seized the powerful Cyclopes. Their single eyes blinked in confusion. They did not understand their father's intent. He pushed them down with immense force. The earth groaned beneath his terrible pressure. Gaia cried out, a deep, guttural sound. Her very being recoiled from his touch. But Uranus was relentless in his purpose. He thrust the Cyclopes into her depths. Down, down they tumbled through the darkness. The earth opened, then swiftly closed. A heavy silence followed their descent. Next, he turned to the Hecatoncheires. Their 100 arms thrashed in protest. Their 50 heads roared with confusion. They were too large, too strong, too many. But Uranus's will was now absolute. He used all his boundless strength. He shoved them with violent, desperate haste. Their immense bodies struggled against him. Gaia screamed, the world seemed to tear. Her pain echoed through the nascent cosmos. Deep fissures opened across her surface. The ground quaked with her profound agony. Uranus ignored her anguished cries. He pushed them deeper, ever deeper. He sealed them within her hidden core. They vanished into the black abyss. The Hecatoncheires tumbled endlessly downward. They fell through the dark, suffocating earth. Their 100 arms flailed in blind terror. Their 50 heads cried out for their mother. But no sound escaped their new prison. The deep earth muffled every protest. Darkness engulfed their massive forms. They were truly, utterly alone. Uranus then sealed the entrance. He willed the earth to close tightly. Not a crack, not a single opening remained. The surface became smooth once more. The sky above seemed to sigh with relief. A chilling quiet settled over the world. Uranus felt a fleeting sense of triumph. His power was safe, his rule secure. But Gaia, oh, Gaia, she suffered terribly. A mother's heart was torn and broken. Her pain was a deep, searing wound. It pulsed through her very core. She felt her children's muffled cries. They echoed within her own vast being. They were buried alive, deep inside her. Her womb had become their dark prison. Her mountains wept with silent sorrow. Her rivers flowed with bitter tears. The very ground trembled with her grief. A heavy, suffocating weight pressed upon her. She lay beneath the sky, heavy with pain. Her love for her children was boundless. But Uranus had shown no such tenderness. He had acted with cruel, cold resolve. She could feel their fear, their immense immense loneliness. Their desperate pleas went unheard. They were trapped, forever hidden from sight. The darkness held them in its embrace. Her heart ached with an unbearable burden. This act stained her eternal existence. It was a betrayal she would not forget. The seeds of resentment took root. They grew deep within her ancient heart. A mother's love turned to simmering rage. Her sorrow hardened into a cold resolve. She would not let this injustice stand. Her children would not remain forgotten. A plan began to slowly form. It would be a dark, terrible vengeance. Uranus, meanwhile, rested in false peace. He watched the stars, serene and bright. He believed he had secured his dominion. He thought his fears were now put to rest. He did not hear Gaia's silent suffering. He did not feel her growing resentment. The earth, his wife, held a secret, a promise of future, painful reckoning. Deep within the boundless cosmos, Gaia, the ancient earth, still stirred with profound, unending sorrow. Her very being throbbed with a dull ache. She felt the enormous weight of her imprisoned children. They groaned beneath her surface. Their cries, though muffled, resonated through the earth's deep caverns. Each tremor was a fresh wave of agony for their mother. The air above her vast landscapes grew heavy, thick with unseen grief. A profound silence often fell across the land, broken only by a mournful whisper of the wind through ancient trees. This was Gaia's lament, a quiet, constant hum of suffering that echoed her children's torment. Her heart, vast as the world itself, was bruised and broken by Uranus's cruel tyranny. He had cast her beloved offspring, the mighty Cyclops and the 100-handed Hecatoncheires, into Tartarus's deepest abyss. She yearned for justice. Her spirit cried out for release. The time had come for a desperate plea. With immense effort, Gaia gathered her other children, the powerful titans, around her. They were her second brood, strong and majestic, yet still young in the grand scheme of creation. They assembled in a hidden, verdant valley, bathed in the soft glow of celestial starlight. The air here was cool, hushed, and expectant. Oceanus, the eldest, stood tall, his gaze calm as the deep sea. Coos, the titan of intellect, watched with thoughtful eyes. Crius, Hyperion, and Ipetus stood silently, their powerful forms shadowed by the deepening twilight. The titanesses were also present: gentle Rhea, wise Themis, memory keeper Mnemosyne, luminous Phoebe, and nurturing Tethys. Young Cronos, the youngest of the titans, stood slightly apart, his expression unreadable. Gaia's voice, usually a vibrant song of life, was now a low, trembling murmur. It carried the weight of ages, a mother's unending pain. "My beloved children," she began, her words barely a whisper through the rustling leaves. "I have called you here, for my heart is heavy with a burden too great to bear alone." Her gaze swept over their faces, searching for understanding, for courage. "Your brothers, my firstborn sons, the Cyclops with their single, piercing eyes, the Hecatoncheires with their 100 mighty hands, they suffer," she continued, her voice catching with raw emotion. "Your father, Uranus, cast them into the deepest darkness. He fears their power, fears their strength. He has imprisoned them within my very being, within Tartarus, the lowest pit. A collective shiver ran through the assembled Titans. They knew of Tartarus. Its name alone conjured images of suffocating blackness and eternal despair. They shifted uneasily, their gazes dropping to the earth. The weight of their mother's words settled upon them, heavy and undeniable. They felt the tremors, too. They heard the faint, distant groans of their imprisoned siblings. "My pain is their pain," Gaia whispered, her voice laced with profound sorrow. "Their suffering is mine. I writhe in agony day and night. Uranus's tyranny knows no bounds. He rules with an iron fist, fearing any who might challenge his absolute power. He has stifled the very breath of creation." Her voice grew a little stronger, though still filled with grief. "This injustice cannot stand." She paused, allowing her words to sink into their minds, into their very souls. The silence that followed was immense, broken only by the soft sigh of the wind. The Titans remained still, their faces reflecting a mixture of shock, fear, and deep unease. They were powerful, yes, but Uranus was their father, the first ruler, the very sky above them. His might was legendary, his wrath terrifying. Oceanus, ever calm, was the first to speak, his voice low. "Mother, we hear your sorrow, we feel your pain." He hesitated, his eyes flicking towards the vast, silent expanse of the sky. "But Uranus, he is formidable. His power is beyond measure." His words hung in the air, a quiet acknowledgement of their collective fear. Coeus nodded slowly, his brow furrowed in thought. To challenge him, it would be an act of immense defiance. An act of war, perhaps. The word war seemed to echo through the quiet valley, chilling them all. Rhea looked at her mother with deep compassion, but her eyes also held a flicker of apprehension. The other Titans remained silent, their gazes fixed on the ground or on the distant, unyielding sky. They remembered their father's immense, overwhelming presence. They had always known his power, but the thought of confronting it, of directly opposing him, filled them with a cold dread. They were strong, but were they strong enough? Was any of them brave enough to face the wrath of the Sky Father? A heavy tension settled over the gathering. It was a tangible thing, a thick, oppressive blanket. The air grew still. Even the soft rustle of leaves ceased. Gaia watched them, her eyes filled with a desperate hope, yet also with a growing despair. She saw the fear in their eyes, the hesitation in their posture. Would they abandon her? Would they allow their brothers to remain in endless torment? Then a subtle shift. Young Cronos, standing slightly in the shadows, slowly lifted his head. His eyes, usually dark and contemplative, held a faint, unsettling flicker. It was not fear that shone there, but something else, a nascent ambition, a calculating resolve. He had heard his mother's plea. He had felt her pain, and a seed of an idea had begun to sprout in his own formidable mind. The silence continued, but the air now hummed with a different energy, a quiet, dangerous promise. The stage was set for a terrible decision. The air still trembled with Gaia's sorrowful cry. Her plea echoed in the vast, shadowed cavern. Most Titans recoiled from the challenge she presented. They shied from their father's immense power. Fear tightened their mighty, ancient hearts. Only Cronos remained perfectly still. He was the youngest of the Titan sons. His eyes, dark as deep earth, watched his mother. He saw her pain, he felt her deep despair. Yet, his mind was not filled with fear. Instead, a quiet calculation began. He observed his fearful brothers. Hyperion, Oceanus, Coos, all hesitated. Their strength was immense, but their courage faltered. Cronos, however, possessed a different kind of strength. It was the strength of cunning, a quiet, waiting power. He considered his mother's words carefully. He weighed the risks against a hidden potential, freedom for his siblings and for himself. A new order, perhaps. A subtle shift stirred within him. This was more than just pity for Gaia. It was a nascent desire for control, a hunger for a different kind of reign. He saw an opening, a path to true dominion. He stepped forward, slowly, deliberately. His heavy footsteps made no sound. Gaia looked up, her ancient eyes wide. Hope flickered weakly within their depths. Cronos knelt before her, a silent vow. His voice was low, a rumbling whisper. It barely disturbed the cavern's stillness. "Mother," he said softly, "I will help you." His words were firm, unwavering. They were spoken with quiet resolve. A great sigh escaped Gaia's lips. It was a sound of profound relief. Her immense form seemed to settle slightly. A spark ignited in her weary eyes. Her plan, once a desperate hope, might now begin. She reached out, a gnarled hand touching his arm. Her touch was warm, like the earth's core. "Come," she urged, her voice hushed. "We must speak where none can hear us." Secrecy was now paramount. Deep they descended, to the very heart of the world. The air grew thick and heavy there. It hummed with ancient, potent energies. This was Gaia's sacred, private domain. Here, her power was absolute. They sat on rough, uncarved stone. The only light came from within the earth. It pulsed with a soft, molten glow. Gaia began to whisper her dark design. Cronos listened with keen attention. "Uranus must be bound," she explained softly. "He must not reign over me again." Her voice held a deep, lingering bitterness. "His power comes from the sky, from above." This was their greatest challenge. Cronos nodded, absorbing every detail. He asked questions, precise, thoughtful inquiries. What was the best moment? How could they surprise him? His mind worked quickly, like a sharp blade. Gaia outlined the ambush. It would happen when Uranus next descended. He would come to embrace her, as was his custom. That moment of closeness would be his undoing. It was a betrayal, cold and cruel. But how? Cronos asked, his brow furrowed. His strength is beyond measure. No chains can hold him. He considered the problem deeply. His tactical mind sought a true solution. Gaia smiled, a knowing, ancient smile. I have prepared for this moment, she revealed. Her voice dropped to a conspiratorial tone. I have conceived a weapon of great power. It would be her own creation. She gestured to the glowing rock around them. The very substance of the earth shifted. It began to churn, a slow, viscous movement. A deep, resonant hum filled the chamber. It vibrated through Cronos's bones. From the primal earth, she drew forth a substance. It was neither stone nor metal, but something more. It shimmered with an inner, dark light. This was adamantine, the hardest material of all. Gaia molded it with her immense hands. The earth itself groaned with the effort. Sparks of raw energy flew around her. She shaped it patiently, with fierce determination. Her ancient power was fully engaged. The air grew hot, almost unbearable now. The glow intensified, a blinding pulse. Cronos watched, mesmerized by her work. He saw the pure, raw power of creation. This was a mother's desperate will. Slowly, the shape emerged from the molten glow. It was a crescent, curved and sharp. Its edge gleamed with a terrible brilliance. This was no ordinary tool, but a weapon. It was forged for a singular, dark purpose. It was a sickle, a farmer's tool, yet deadly. Its blade was impossibly thin, impossibly keen. It seemed to drink the light of the chamber. This was the instrument of her vengeance. It was the key to their plan. Finally, with a soft, resonant clang, she finished. The adamantine sickle cooled quickly. It rested on the warm, pulsing stone. Its dark surface reflected no light. It seemed to absorb the very shadows. Gaia lifted it carefully, respectfully. She presented it to Cronos, hilt first. This, my son, she whispered gravely, is for you. Its weight felt immense in his hand. It hummed with latent, terrible power. Cronos gripped the handle firmly. The adamantine felt surprisingly light. Yet, he sensed its profound capability. It was cold, it felt ancient, and utterly ruthless. This sickle would sever the bonds of the old world. Their eyes met in the dim, pulsing light. A silent understanding passed between them. The plan was set. The weapon was ready. The fate of the cosmos now rested with them. They awaited the opportune moment. The air in the chamber grew heavy with anticipation. The secret was sealed between them. Cronos held the instrument of change. A new era, a new reign would soon begin. The old ways were about to fall. The vast sky, a deep velvet blanket, settled gently over the world. Stars, like scattered diamonds, began to twinkle softly into view. A profound stillness descended upon the sleeping earth. From the highest heavens, Uranus began his nightly journey. He moved with the slow, deliberate grace of an ancient king. His cosmic form gently drifted towards his beloved Gaia. A cool, unseen shadow detached itself from the slumbering earth. Cronos, silent as the night itself, waited in the darkness. His heart beat with a quiet, determined rhythm. In his hand, the adamantine sickle shimmered faintly. It was a crescent of cold, unyielding power. He had held it hidden, ready for this singular moment. Uranus, unaware, descended ever closer. He reached out to embrace Gaia, his cosmic energy flowing towards her. The ancient ritual was about to unfold. Then, with a sudden, silent surge, Cronos moved. His form was a blur in the dim light. The heavy sickle arced through the dark air. It struck with a soundless impact, a decisive, world-altering blow. The ancient order, unbroken for ages, fractured in that instant. Uranus cried out, a sound that ripped through the quiet cosmos. It was not a cry of mere pain, but of profound shock. He reeled backward, his immense form shuddering. Betrayal washed over him like a cold, swift tide. His divine essence, now unbound, began to scatter. Drops of his celestial blood fell like fiery rain. They plunged towards the earth, searing the very air. From these potent crimson droplets, new beings sprang forth. The fearsome Erinyes, or Furies, rose from the earth. They were dark avengers, born of his anguish. From other drops, the mighty giants emerged. Their immense forms stretched towards the sky. The beautiful Meliae, ash tree nymphs, also took root. Uranus, wounded and diminished, turned away. He retreated from the world he once ruled. His cosmic light faded as he withdrew into the distant, formless void. His reign had ended, not with a roar, but with a shuddering sigh. The primordial heavens were now empty of his dominant presence. A new silence filled the vast expanse. Cronos stood tall, the sickle still in his hand. Its cold weight felt strangely right. The air around him hummed with a new, potent energy. He looked out over the world, now his to command. The stars seemed to shine brighter, acknowledging his victory. The very fabric of reality seemed to shift. He was the new supreme ruler, the king of the Titans. His siblings, emerging from their hiding places, looked upon him with awe. Some felt fear, others quiet admiration. The age of Uranus was over, a forgotten whisper in the cosmic winds. The age of Cronos had begun. A new, sterner hand would now guide the universe. He felt the immense weight of his new power. It settled upon him like a heavy, majestic cloak. The world waited, holding its breath. The silence was profound, yet expectant. Cronos had claimed his destiny. The cosmos now bent to his will. The vast, ancient world breathed a collective, quiet sigh. Cronos, the new king, now sat upon the cosmic throne. His formidable presence filled every corner of the sky. A gentle calm descended over the land. A new era had truly begun. The air itself seemed to lighten, almost shimmering with a newfound hope. No longer did Uranus's harsh gaze oppress the earth. Cronos, the youngest Titan, had brought forth a profound change. He was the sovereign now. His will shaped the very fabric of existence. This was the dawn of what mortals would later call the Golden Age. The earth yielded its bounty without toil or struggle. Rivers flowed with milk and honey, sweet and clear. Trees bore fruit in abundance, always ripe, always delicious. The sun shone with a gentle warmth, never too hot nor too cold. Flowers bloomed in endless meadows, their colors vibrant and soft. Peace settled over the land like a comforting blanket. There was no pain, no sorrow, no hunger. The Titans themselves felt this burgeoning prosperity. They moved freely, their immense forms no longer burdened. Their laughter, once rare, echoed more often through the celestial halls. Cronos, in his early rule, was fair and just. He remembered his siblings, trapped in the deep, dark realm. Tartarus still held the Cyclopes and the Hecatoncheires. These monstrous beings, his own brothers, had suffered long years. Cronos felt a pang of guilt, a flicker of compassion. He descended to the dark chasm, his powerful steps shaking the earth. The air grew heavy, thick with ancient despair. A terrible silence hung over the abyss. Then he raised his voice, a resonant command. "Brothers," he boomed, "your imprisonment ends today." He severed the chains forged by their cruel father. With a mighty heave, he ripped open the very gates of Tartarus. A rush of stale, cold air escaped. From the depths emerged the Cyclopes, their single eyes blinking against the dim light. Brontes, Steropes, and Arges looked upon their rescuer. Their faces, usually grim, held a glimmer of awe. They lumbered forth, their massive forms filling the passage. Then came the Hecatoncheires, Cottus, Briareos, and Gyges. Their 100 arms writhed like restless serpents. 50 heads turned slowly, taking in the world above. They had known only darkness now. A faint light touched them. They were free, truly free, for the first time in ages. Cronos had kept his promise to them, a promise made long ago. The Cyclopes, with their immense strength, offered their loyalty. The Hecatoncheires, with their boundless power, pledged their aid. This act of liberation brought even greater stability to Cronos' reign. The Titans rejoiced in their brother's return. The universe seemed to hum with a quiet harmony. It was a time of boundless potential, of pure, unblemished joy. Yet even in this golden light, a shadow began to stir. It was not cast by an external threat. No, this shadow arose from within Cronos himself. A cold, insidious whisper began to echo in his mind. He had overthrown his father, Uranus. He had used a prophecy, a betrayal, a brutal act. What if the same fate awaited him? What if his own children one day rose against him? The thought took root, an unwelcome seed. He remembered Uranus's final, chilling words. The curse had been clear. One of your own will rise against you. Cronos had dismissed it then, drunk on his victory. Now, the words returned, sharp and piercing. He began to watch his siblings, his new consort Rhea. A flicker of suspicion entered his powerful eyes. Would they truly remain loyal? Or would ambition, like a hidden serpent, coil within their hearts? The peace he had created began to feel fragile. His sleep became restless, haunted by shadowy figures. He saw his father's pained face, distorted by fear and rage. He saw his own hands, red with the blood of his progenitor. The victory felt less sweet now. The golden age continued its gentle sway. The world still prospered, vibrant and full. But Cronos' heart grew heavy, burdened by a growing dread. The king, once a liberator, now felt the chill of paranoia. He had freed his brothers from Tartarus, an act of grace. But the fear of his own future, of his own downfall, began to imprison him. This glorious reign, so full of promise, would be brief. A chilling prophecy still hung in the vast, cosmic air. Cronos stood in the cool mountain air. He watched his newly freed siblings. A quiet relief had first settled upon him. Now, something different stirred. The Cyclopes worked nearby, their one great eye focused. Hammers swung with rhythmic clangor. Sparks flew like golden insects. They shaped metals from the earth's deep heart. Their forge glowed, a pulsing orange beacon. They crafted things of immense power. Thunderbolts, some whispered, for a distant future king. Cronos felt a chill. Their strength was undeniable. Their skill was unmatched. They could build anything. They could also destroy. He saw the raw, potent force in their hands. Then he turned his gaze. The Hecatonchires moved across the landscape. Their 100 arms worked in perfect unison. They shifted colossal boulders. They redirected mighty rivers. The ground trembled softly beneath their feet. Their deep voices rumbled like distant thunder. They seemed to reshape the very world. Their power was truly vast. Cronos remembered the darkness. He recalled the long, crushing years. Uranus had held them all captive. He had been so powerful then, yet Cronos had overcome him. He had risen against his father. He had seized the sky. He had claimed the throne. A cold thought pierced him. I did it, asterisk, he mused. I defied my father, asterisk. I took his power. The memory felt sharp. He looked at the Cyclopes. He watched the Hecatonchires. A seed of doubt began to sprout. They were so strong. They were so numerous. Could they, too, defy him? Could they rise against their liberator? The question whispered in his mind. It was a serpent's hiss. He had freed them from Tartarus. He had given them light. He had given them freedom. Was that enough? His own past actions haunted him. He had been ambitious. He had been ruthless. He had been successful. Now he saw those same traits. He imagined them in others. He projected them onto his siblings. The suspicion grew. The Cyclopes continued their work. They seemed oblivious. They were absorbed in their fiery craft. But Cronos saw more. He saw their potential. He saw their capability. He saw a threat. His initial relief dissolved completely. a new emotion took its place. It was a gnawing unease. It was a creeping paranoia. It settled deep within him. He remembered Uranus's scream. He remembered the blood. He remembered the swift, decisive act. He had felt no remorse then, but now a different feeling emerged, a tremor of fear. What if they are like me? He wondered. What if they seek the same power? He walked the mountain paths. His steps were slow. His thoughts were troubled. He observed every movement. He watched the Hecatoncheires. Their 100 hands moved ceaselessly. They built great walls. They dug deep chasms. Their loyalty seemed absolute. They were grateful, surely. They owed him their very freedom. But gratitude could fade. Ambition burned brightly. Cronos knew this well. It had burned in his own heart. It had driven his rebellion. He saw the Cyclops, massive forms. He saw their powerful muscles. He saw their unwavering focus. They could forge anything. They could forge weapons. Weapons against him. The thought struck him hard. It was a sudden, chilling blow. He had been so careful. His reign had just begun. He had established his rule. He felt secure, or so he thought. The memory of Uranus was a ghost. It whispered warnings. It showed him his own reflection. A king, vulnerable. Cronos felt a knot tighten. It was in his chest. It was in his stomach. The fear started to spread. He had overthrown his father. He had taken his place. Now, he wondered, would his fate be the same? Would his own children rise? Would his own siblings conspire? The world seemed to shift around him. The mountain winds howled. They carried the sounds of the forge. They carried the rumble of the giants. It all sounded menacing. He had once believed in freedom. He had championed liberation. He had opened the gates of Tartarus. Now he regretted it. The power he had unleashed. It was immense. It was terrifying. It was no longer under his full control. He watched the Cyclops' hammers. They struck with incredible force. Each blow echoed in his mind. Each echo fueled his fear. He felt the ground vibrate. The Hecatoncheires were near. Their presence was overwhelming. Their strength was immense. Cronos was a king. He was powerful. He was victorious. Yet he felt small. He felt incredibly exposed. The whispers in his mind grew louder. They spoke of usurpation. They spoke of betrayal. They spoke of his own end. He had won the war. He had claimed the throne. But the battle within him had just begun. It was a battle against his own mind. His reign had begun in triumph. Now it was shadowed. It was tainted by doubt. It was consumed by a growing, insidious fear. The golden age continued. It truly flourished. Cronos surveyed his vast domain. Peace reigned across the land. Plenty filled every storehouse. Yet a shadow lingered in his heart. A quiet unease began to grow. His mighty siblings, the Cyclops, crafted wonders. Their hammers rang with joyful purpose. The Hecatoncheires, with their 100 hands, built grand structures. They moved mountains with effortless grace. Cronos had freed them from Tartarus. He had promised them freedom's balm. But a king's mind can wander. A king's fear can take root. Cronos remembered their immense strength. He recalled their powerful, ancient forms. They were giants among giants. They held unimaginable power. What if they turned against him? What if their loyalty wavered? The thought was a tiny seed. It began to sprout in the fertile ground of his paranoia. He had overthrown his own father. Could not another do the same? His throne felt less secure now. His crown seemed to slip. He paced the echoing halls of his palace, his brow furrowed with deep concern. The joy of his reign began to fade. It was replaced by gnawing doubt. He summoned his most trusted titans. Oceanus came, silent and vast. Coos arrived, thoughtful and distant. Creus, stalwart and strong, stood ready. Iapetus, fierce and unyielding, watched him. These were his brothers, his loyal kin. "My brothers," Cronos began, his voice low. "We have achieved true peace." He gestured broadly with one hand. "The world bows to our will." His gaze settled on each of them. "But vigilance is ever crucial." Oceanus nodded slowly. "Indeed, Lord Cronos." His voice was like the deep sea. "Peace requires constant tending." "I speak of our allies," Cronos continued. His tone shifted slightly. "The Cyclopes, their gifts are immense." He paused, weighing his words. "The Hecatoncheires, their power is boundless." Creus shifted his weight. "They serve us well, brother." His voice was calm, reassuring. "They have proven their allegiance." For now, Cronos interjected sharply. A flicker of impatience crossed his face. "But consider their nature." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. "They were born of our Cronos." Iapetus frowned. "As were we all, Cronos." His gaze was unwavering. "Does that make us suspect?" "No, no, not so," Cronos hurried to amend. "But their power, it is primordial." He tapped a finger on his chin. "Untamed, in a way." He looked to Coos for understanding. Coos remained impassive. "They fought for us, Cronos." His voice was measured, dispassionate. "They helped secure your throne. And I am grateful," Cronos insisted. He stood upright again. "Truly, profoundly grateful." He walked to a window, looking out. "But what if they grow restless?" He turned back to face them. "What if they desire more? More than peace," Oceanus mused. "More than prosperity. More than their assigned place," Cronos clarified. "They are mighty, they know it." He lowered his voice once more. "They could challenge me." His eyes darted between his brothers. "They could challenge us asterisk." A heavy silence descended. The Titans exchanged glances. The air grew thick with unspoken thoughts. This was a dangerous path. "We freed them from Tartarus," Iapetus stated. His voice held a note of warning. "That was your promise." "A promise made in a time of war," Cronos countered. His jaw tightened. "A promise made for victory." He paced again, his strides quickening. "Now, We are in a time of peace, and peace must be protected, Cronos said. He seemed to understand Cronos' logic, even from potential threats. Cronos stopped pacing. He looked directly at Cronos. Exactly, brother. A hint of relief softened his features. You see my concern. Their power is immense, Cronos reiterated. Unmatched, save for my own. He pounded a fist lightly into his palm. Such power cannot be left unchecked. He spoke with growing conviction. It is a risk too great. So, what do you propose? Cronos asked. His voice was laced with caution. What action do you envision? Cronos took a deep breath. We must secure them. His voice was firm now. For the good of all. He looked at their faces. For the stability of our reign. Secure them how? Apetus demanded. His eyes narrowed. Where would they go? Cronos walked to a large map. It depicted the known world. He pointed to a dark, shadowy region. Tartarus, of course. He traced a line with his finger. But deeper this time, the Titans gasped. A collective intake of breath. Tartarus was a place of endless torment. It was a prison for the damned. But they are not damned, Oceanus protested. His calm voice wavered. They are our allies. They are a potential threat, Cronos corrected him. His voice was cold, unyielding. A clear and present danger. He looked at each Titan in turn. Their strength is too great to ignore. This is a cruel act, Cronos, Cronos stated. His voice was low. It goes against your word. My word is to protect this kingdom, Cronos retorted. His voice rose slightly. To ensure our unending rule. He slammed his hand on the table. And if that requires stern measures, then so be it. How would we achieve this? Cronos asked, his mind already turning to logistics. They are formidable foes. We would need cunning, Cronos mused. His eyes gleamed. And swift, decisive action. He began to outline his plan. We must catch them unawares. He spoke of subterfuge and misdirection. He described a trap carefully set. The Cyclopes, engrossed in their crafting. The Hecatoncheires, busy with their building. They would never suspect betrayal. We lure them to a specific location, Cronos explained. His voice was filled with grim determination. A place where their power can be contained. He pointed to a desolate mountain range. A new, deeper pit. And then, Apetus asked, his voice flat. Then we use our combined might, Cronos declared, to force them back into the depths. He looked at his brothers, his gaze unwavering. This is for the greater good. Oceanus remained silent, his vast eyes distant. Cronos looked troubled, his brow furrowed. Apetus's face was a mask of grim acceptance. Cronos, ever practical, began to consider the details, the weight of a king's fear. It was a heavy burden to bear. It twisted his judgment. It warped his compassion. Cronos believed he was securing his destiny. He believed he was safeguarding his legacy. But in truth, he was sowing seeds of future strife. His reign, once golden, began to tarnish. A shadow of tyranny began to fall. The air in Tartarus hung heavy. It was thick, it was still. Only the drip of unseen water disturbed the quiet. Cronos stood at the cavern's edge. He gazed into the gloom. His eyes, like twin coals, gleamed. He had sent his summons. He had crafted his lie. He promised a truce. He promised peace. He spoke of new beginnings. He spoke of shared power. And he waited. He waited patiently. A rumble began far below. It grew louder. It became a tremor. The very earth vibrated. The Cyclopes lumbered first. Their massive forms filled the tunnel. Their single eyes glowed. They were wary. They were suspicious. Then came the Hecatonchires. 100 arms swung. 100 hands brushed the cavern walls. Their voices echoed. They questioned Cronos's intent. They remembered their long imprisonment. They remembered the pain. Cronos smiled. It was a thin, cold smile. "Brothers," he boomed. His voice resonated. It filled the vast space. "The time for war is over." His words were honeyed. They were deceptive. He took a step forward. He opened his arms wide. "Let us speak of the future," he urged. "Let us speak of unity." His eyes met theirs. He projected sincerity. He projected goodwill. The Cyclopes hesitated. They exchanged glances. Bronze, the Thunderer, grunted. "What trick is this, Cronos?" he rumbled. "Your father bound us here." He pointed a thick finger. "For ages we suffered." Cronos sighed theatrically. "My father was a tyrant," he declared. "He feared your strength." He lowered his voice. "I do not fear it. I respect it." He paused for effect. He let his words sink in. The Hecatonchires shifted. They were less trusting. Cottus, the furious, growled low. "You are your father's son," he accused. "Deception runs in your veins." He clenched his fists. The stone walls trembled. Cronos chuckled softly. "Is that what you believe?" he asked. His voice remained calm. "Then prove me wrong. Come closer. Let us break bread together. Let us share a drink." He gestured to a prepared table. It was laden with food. There were roasted meats. There were sweet fruits. There were jugs of nectar. The aroma wafted through the cavern. It was tempting. It was inviting. The Cyclopes, ever hungry, moved forward. Their stomachs rumbled. They had not tasted such delicacies. Not in eons. Arges, the bright, sniffed the air. "This smells real," he muttered. Steropes, the lightener, nodded slowly. His single eye narrowed. "Perhaps he has changed," he conceded. "Perhaps freedom has softened him." They approached the table. They began to eat. The Hecatonchires remained aloof. They watched. They waited. They did not trust this sudden generosity. Briareus, the strong, crossed his many arms. "We will observe," he announced. From a distance, Cronos did not press them. He continued to feast with the Cyclopes. He laughed loudly. He told tales of his battles. He spoke of his victory over Uranus. He painted a picture of a new age. He poured more nectar. He encouraged them to drink. The Cyclopes grew drowsy. Their heavy eyelids drooped. Their movements slowed. The nectar was potent. It was laced with a sleeping draught. Yes, Cronus murmured. His smile widened. It was no longer cold. It was triumphant. A new age indeed. He signaled subtly. His loyal Titan brethren emerged. They had been hiding. Oceanus, Cous, Creus, Ipetus, and Hyperion. They moved like shadows. They surrounded the feasting Cyclopes. The Cyclopes were too slow. They were too sleepy. They were too vulnerable. Bronze was the first to fall. He slumped onto the table. His single eye closed. Arges followed. Then Steropes. They were unconscious. They were helpless. The Hecatonchires roared. Their 100 arms flew into action. They hurled massive boulders. They tore at the cavern walls. Traitors, Cottus bellowed. Deceivers. Cronus met their fury. He moved with lightning speed. His scythe, sharp and gleaming, materialized. He parried their attacks. He dodged their blows. He was a whirlwind of power. The other Titans joined the fray. Hyperion, the sun god, unleashed blasts of light. Cous, the inquisitive, used his intellect to anticipate their moves. Creus, the ram, charged with brute force. Ipetus, the piercer, struck with precision. Oceanus, though hesitant, used his vast strength to restrain. The Hecatonchires were powerful, but they were outnumbered. They were outmaneuvered. Cronus focused on Briareus. He was the strongest. He was the most defiant. Cronus lunged. His scythe sang through the air. He aimed for Briareus's legs. He wanted to disable him. Briareus roared. He blocked with a 12 arms, but Cronus was relentless. He pressed his attack. He was faster. He was more determined. He was fueled by his ambition. One by one, the Hecatonchires fell, not to their deaths, but to a deep, magical slumber. Cronus's power was immense. He could bend reality. He could command sleep. Cottus was the last. He fought with a desperate fury. He lunged at Cronus. His many arms flailed, but Cronus merely sidestepped. He brought his scythe down. It struck Cottus's head, not with a fatal blow, but with a surge of energy. Cottus's eyes rolled back. His massive body swayed. He collapsed. He was defeated. He was powerless. Cronus stood over them. His chest heaved. His breath came in ragged gasps, but his eyes blazed. He had done it. He had captured the giants. He had secured his reign. The Titans stood around him. They were weary, but they were awestruck. They had witnessed his might. They had seen his ruthlessness. They knew their leader was formidable. Bind them, Cronus commanded. His voice was hoarse. Bind them tightly. He looked at the unconscious forms. A cold satisfaction filled him. And return them to their prisons. The Titans obeyed. They used unbreakable chains. They secured the giants. The Cyclopes and Hecatonchires were once again imprisoned. Their strength was neutralized. Their power was contained. Cronus looked at his scythe. It gleamed in the dim light. He had proven his dominance. He had shown his might. The path to absolute rule was clear. No one could stop him now. He turned to his brethren. "The world is ours," he declared. His voice resonated through Tartarus. "The age of Titans has begun." He smiled. It was a dark, unyielding smile. He had conquered his father. He had defeated the giants. He had cemented his power. The stars themselves seemed to dim. They acknowledged his triumph. They acknowledged his reign. The silence returned to Tartarus. It was deeper now. It was more profound. Only the distant drip of water. A constant, lonely sound. A whisper of what had been lost. A testament to power. The monstrous giants were bound. Their struggles were useless now. Cronos watched them. His face was grim. He felt a cold satisfaction. His next command was swift. He spoke of a dark, deep place. This was Tartarus, a prison for gods. It lay far beneath the earth. Tartarus was a realm of dread. It was a pit of eternal night. No light could ever reach it. No hope could ever bloom there. The journey began. It was a slow, terrible descent. The captive giants were dragged along. Their massive bodies scraped on rock. Down, down they went. Into the very heart of the world. The air grew colder with each passing moment. A chill wind whispered past them. The path was narrow. It was winding. It twisted like a serpent's coil. Dark shadows danced on the walls. They seemed to mock the prisoners. The ground sloped steeply now. It plunged into an abyss. The giants stumbled. They nearly fell. Their captors held them firm. They passed through caverns vast and empty. Echoes of their groans resounded. The silence of the deep was broken. It was filled with their despair. The air grew heavy. It was thick. It smelled of damp earth and stone. A profound darkness enveloped them. It was a darkness that swallowed all light. Finally, they reached the gates. They were immense. They were terrible. Cast from obsidian, they rose high. They seemed to touch the unseen ceiling. These gates were ancient. They were strong. They bore strange, forgotten runes. They shimmered faintly in the gloom. A faint, cold light emanated. Cronos raised a hand. His voice was a low rumble. He commanded the gates to open. The earth itself seemed to groan. Slowly, ponderously, they swung inward. The sound was a grinding roar. It echoed through the vast cavern. It promised no escape. Beyond the gates lay Tartarus. It was a realm of absolute despair. An endless void stretched before them. It was a suffocating blackness. The air here was frigid. It was sharp. It bit at their exposed skin. A profound chill settled deep within them. It froze their very bones. The ground was uneven. It was jagged. Sharp rocks jutted from the floor. No living thing could survive here. No warmth could ever penetrate. The captured cyclopes were pushed forward. The hecatonchires followed behind. Each step was a step deeper. Each step pulled them further down. They were in the deepest pit now. It was the very bottom of existence. The gloom was absolute. It was crushing. It pressed down upon their souls. Cronos watched them enter. His eyes held no pity. He saw only triumph there. He saw only his own power. The giants were forced into positions. They were chained to the cold stone. Their massive limbs were secured. Their struggles were now futile. The chains were forged from Stygian iron. They were unbreakable. They were strong. They glowed faintly in the dark. A cold, blue light pulsed. Their roars of defiance faded. They became whimpers of despair. The vastness of Tartarus swallowed their sounds. It left only the pervasive silence. Now their tormentors stood guard. Cronos had chosen them carefully. They were monsters of the deep. They were creatures of endless night. Serpent-like beings slithered near. Their eyes glowed with malevolence. Their scales scraped on the rock. They encircled the imprisoned giants. Harpies with sharp talons perched. Their shadows danced on the walls. Their cries were piercing. They were shrill. They echoed through the dark. Fearsome chimeras prowled the edges. Their multiple heads sniffed the air. Their growls were low and guttural. They promised no mercy. These were the jailers of Tartarus. They were just as terrifying. They were born of the abyss itself. They knew only darkness. The Cyclopes were sealed away. The Hecatonchires were imprisoned. They were truly alone now. They were forgotten by the world. The great gates began to close. Slowly, inexorably, they moved. The grinding roar returned. It sealed their fate forever. The last sliver of light vanished. Absolute darkness reigned supreme. The cold was unbearable now. It seeped into their very souls. They were trapped. They were helpless. They were in the deepest abyss. They were left to their eternal gloom. Cronos turned away. His mission was complete. He had secured his reign. He had no more fears. He ascended from the darkness. He left the horrors behind. The earth groaned softly beneath him. It seemed to sigh in relief. The world above seemed brighter. The stars twinkled in the sky. But deep beneath, in Tartarus, the darkness remained. It held its prisoners fast. The mighty giants were gone. Their power was undone. Cronos had triumphed. His rule was now secure. The echoes of their suffering. They remained in the cold air. A silent testament to their fate. A chilling promise of eternal night. No one would ever hear them. No one would ever find them. They were lost to the world forever. They were swallowed by the deep. This was the true price, the cost of Cronos' power. A chilling silence settled. It marked the end of the giants. The deep earth sighed. Gaia's sorrow lingered. It clung to the very air. Cronos, though, felt only triumph. His mighty siblings were gone. They were safely entombed now. Tartarus held them fast. A profound calm settled over him. It was a false calm. He stood upon his throne. It was carved from dark stone. The air hummed with his power. No challenge remained. He believed this deeply. His reign was absolute. His will was law. He had averted all threats, or so he thought. The sky watched silently. The stars twinkled faintly. They were distant, unblinking eyes. They saw the truth. Cronos's reign was shadowed. It was built on fear. It was built on betrayal. He ruled with an iron fist. His grip never loosened. He strode through his halls. They were vast and echoing. No laughter filled them now. Only the quiet footfalls of his guards. They were loyal. They were terrified. His presence commanded awe. It also commanded dread. Gaia's grief was a whisper. It was carried on the wind. It rustled through the leaves. It flowed in the rivers. Cronos did not hear it. He did not feel it. His heart was hardened. His victory was complete. He remembered his father. Uranus's tyranny had been great, but Cronos was stronger. He was more cunning. He had learned lessons. He would not be overthrown. He would rule forever. This was his firm belief. The Golden Age began. It was an age of plenty. The land yielded its bounty. The rivers flowed with milk. Yet something was missing. A light had dimmed. A warmth had departed. The joy was gone. The early gods served him. They bowed their heads low. Their eyes held caution. They knew his temper. They knew his might. They obeyed without question. They feared his wrath. Rhea, his queen, watched. Her eyes held a deep sadness. She saw the change in him. The harshness grew daily. The love had withered. Their union felt cold. It was a union of power. She longed for brighter days. She longed for peace. But Cronos was vigilant. He was ever suspicious. He saw plots everywhere. He saw dangers lurking. His mind was always at war. The Titans were born next. They were his children. They were strong and fierce. They were filled with potential. Cronos looked at them. He saw reflections of himself. He saw future threats. A chilling thought arose. It coiled in his mind. It was a dark premonition. He remembered his own actions. He remembered Uranus's prophecy. He would face the same fate. A sun would rise. This fear consumed him. It gnawed at his peace. It fueled his paranoia. He could not escape it. The shadow deepened. It stretched across his reign. It touched everything. The world waited. It held its breath. The earth groaned softly. Gaia's sorrow was profound. It permeated the very bedrock. Her pain was a silent plea. It was a longing for change. Cronos ruled unchallenged, but his victory was hollow. His security was fragile. His reign was not eternal. The wheel of time turned slowly. It turned with purpose. It turned toward a new dawn. The seeds of rebellion. They were sown in silence. They were nurtured by sorrow. They would one day blossom. A new generation stirred. They would be different. They would challenge the old ways. The story was not over. It was merely paused. This shadowed reign. It was a necessary step. It was a prelude to fate. The future beckoned. It held both promise and turmoil. Cronos sat on his throne. His crown gleamed dully. He was alone in his triumph. His power was immense, but it was fleeting. The echoes of his past, they resonated deeply. They formed his destiny. The quiet night descended. It enveloped the world. The stars shone brightly. They watched the sleeping earth. They watched the powerful gods. They knew the secrets of time. They knew what was to come. And so, the age of Cronos. It continued its slow march, a reign of fear, a reign of sorrow, a reign forever shadowed. The stage was set. The future awaited its cue. The new world would soon begin. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe for more peaceful tales from mythology.